Alright, so first off, let me apologize for the fairly bad lighting. I tried my best to get it fairly nice looking, but it doesn't really work in my favor now. I hope it will improve for the time being. I'm recording this fairly early now because I don't have much time, but you know. So I figured why not just try and talk about Python for a change. So since I have made a few videos about HTML and a few videos about C#, which I might continue this series if there's enough demand for it. I figured I might just start teaching a bit of Python because there are a few people who definitely want to use Python but don't know where to start. So what you want to do is you want to go to your web browser, and my face just got extremely dark, that's cool. No worries, so you go to python.org and you'll be greeted with this lovely website, which will start on this actually. And what you want to do is you want to go to the download section right here, click to downloads, it will send you to the downloads page, and you want to download this. Now this will download a exe file, which is a installer. Now I already got my installer open. Why is that the 32-bit version? That shouldn't be the 32-bit one. So we pick other Windows. So I click that and it gives me the Windows releases. And you'll be able to see that there are some stable releases. What is this? 3.7.7, 2.9a, I think that's alpha. Here it is. So we've got, okay, these are all the ones actually. So what you want to do is you want to go to the latest release of Python 3 or the latest Python 3 release. You click that and it will send you to Python 3.8.2. You want to scroll down a bit. Here you have your files, and under files you want to look for to make it download a bit faster. We're going to use the Windows x86-64 web-based installer, which is much smaller and doesn't take that long to download. So click that and it's downloaded right away, so we can click this. And as you can see, it opened up with our installer, and what I recommend you to do is add it to your path using this. It will make it much easier to execute commands and you don't have to deal with Python not being in your path. I will explain what that means, so just make sure this is ticked and that install for all users is ticked as well. This should be ticked by default. Next, you want to install the ILDE, pip, and documentation with the shortcuts and file associations. And it will ask for our permission. And now it should get installing. Now, this is a web-based install, so it will download the files while it's installing. Hence why the installer didn't take that long to download. So everything from the modules that Python needs, basically all the things and files that Python needs will be downloaded using this installer, which is really handy if you're trying to basically get up and going. Now this will take a little bit of time, so I'm just going to pause here and return once this has finished, because it really isn't that interesting. It's just watching a bar go from point A to point B. It's not that interesting. Alright, so we're back, and what you should see is we have successfully installed Python. It just went through its normal installation. It took about, what, 5 to 6 minutes. Also, I should have mentioned it's highly dependent on your network connection, so it might have ended faster for you, or it might have ended like earlier for you than for me, but you know. So you can look up online tutorials or documentation. However, today we're just interested in just getting just one small line of code running and some basics. So one thing I would recommend is that you disable the path limit, because it's a fairly good safety precaution just in case your path will um, go way beyond the 260 characters that are normally set as the limit. And that's it, that's Python installed, so we can now click close and we do not need this to be open anymore. So we can go back to our editor. However, there's one thing I didn't mention. With Python being now installed, let me just find where it's located. So it should be on my C drive, and we should, okay, I don't know where it is. So one method you could search for Python is you could type in here Python, and we have 3.8 over here, which is the one we want. We can open its file location. That's just to show you where it might have been. So, and then we want to right click this, open file location again, and you'll see that it has been put into app data, local, programs, Python 38. That doesn't really matter, but it's just a thing I would like to mention so that you guys know where to look just in case the path doesn't work for you. So now we want to open our command prompt. So to do that, we type in cmd and run as administrator. We click yes to execute it. And that's our trusty little window I used in C# tutorials a while back. So with Python installed and everything, we can actually start coding. However, before we begin, there's one thing I'd like to mention, and it's something that I really like about Python. The syntax is, in most cases, much shorter and more straight to the point than any other language you might have used in the past. Also, one more thing, you don't need to compile anything, you just have to create one .py file and it will work as the application itself, which is really neat if you're trying to share the code with someone. So, first, I'll type in, I guess, the path to Python, or just get where our Python is actually saved. So what do we, okay, so we may or may not use our CMD here, but to make it as simple for us as possible so that you guys don't scream at me that I make it too complicated, we're just going to find where Python 3.8 is. And what you could in theory do is you could launch it as it is. However, I'm going to open its location as I showed before, because there's a little thing that gets installed with it, and that's the Python IDLE, which is what we might find useful to write our Python code in. And what it generates is this sort of a command prompt window, this shell essentially, which is what we will be using to do our stuff in Python, because it interacts with everything that we want to do within it. So we will be using that for most of our code. So to actually start using Python, there are a few things. So first off, up here I should mention what the shell does. So you can go to help and view some demos and stuff if you want, but that's not important. Window, which is the shell right here. Options, you can configure the IDLE based on what you need to have. It also depends, you can also select fonts and stuff. We're not gonna deal with that. In terms of debugging, you can go to File Online, have a stack viewer. The shell itself can actually do stuff. In the edit section, it's basically editing, and here we can open files, save files and such, which is really neato. So what we will do as our first program, since Python has been installed, the first program we want to try and do is obviously the very first one that everyone recommends to do, is the Hello World one. So we'll just do that. So what have I written here? I hope you guys can see it properly. Actually, let me configure the font size slightly. Let's set it to 12, make it slightly bigger. I still have to make this. Okay, hit apply. There we go. It's now much bigger. So what have I done here is actually I can open this up fully now so that it's much easier to see. Since it's much easier to see for us, it will actually make things easier. So what I told Python to do here is I want you to print out this text, which is in the brackets, in the double quotes, which will basically print for us hello world. So once I hit enter, you'll see hello world has been printed out. Now this is the very first program everyone should do. However, I can incorporate into this a few variables already. So what we can do is we can set that, for example, our variable text, not test, but text, will be equal to hello world, and add a exclamation point, because why not? So what have I done here? So right now I've created a variable, a string variable to be exact, which is essentially just a place we can store our text into, called, which has the contents of hello world in it. So if we take our code we used before, which is the print command, and put in the brackets just the text thing, which what happens? Our text that we have put into hello world gets printed out. Now, this is really cool and all, but we can actually do far more stuff with this. So what we can do is we can, in fact, chain together a few strings. So to do that, we have to, so since we have our text already created, we can create another variable called, I don't know, text1. It's really generic, isn't it? And we can give it a text like, so it will say hello world, this is my first app in Python. And we can add 3 dots, why not? It's a possibility. So now, once we've executed this, we have another variable stored, so now we have 2 variables. So if I decide to print out those lines of text, let me print out just one by one. So we do, again, print, and let's print out our first text. So we, again, do text. It still says hello world, which is fine. Next, if we do print, and we type in text1, it will print out, this is my first application in Python. It's really neat, it doesn't look as bad, but we want to print them out together in one line. To do that, we can combine them with the plus sign. We can essentially add them together. So what we'll do is we'll do print and type in text plus text1 and end it off. And once I run this, you'll see that it's been combined into one string, essentially combining our first text with the second one. But it's not separated. Can we separate those? Well, of course we can. In order to do that, we don't even have to change our variables. There's only one thing we need to do. So we do text again, do a plus sign, then we add those double quotes. Between those double quotes, we add another space, then we add another plus sign, and then we do text1, end it off, and once we run this, you'll notice that compared to the first one, we now have a space in between those. So we can essentially chain bits of text together, you know. And that's pretty much it. So I already talked about variables. I already talked about printing out text. So yeah, again, I'll be trying to explain as much stuff as I can within Python, just to make it accessible to everyone. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. So make sure to stay safe and wash your hands.